I don't understand, I guess, the logic. I get that he got torched, but he also got torched by the best receiver in football, in my opinion.
Yeah, but I saw some strange commentary from Ben Wickery as well, because he said he was tired, he was winded, almost like a la Donovan McNabb, right? And I was just like, he said he took the field not feeling his best or whatever. And I'm thinking, still, why would you, cut a guy who is a starter unless there was something really wrong inside the locker room that was going on as well? It was just a weird situation altogether, man. The guy you're going to have those bad games, like you said, but this is one of the best wide receivers in the National Football League. What can you expect, especially if you're not getting really good support from your safeties? So that was pretty weird, man. But if this team is able to go and take on the Panthers and defeat the Panthers, the Chiefs are not looking as hot as they used to look. They can win that game in Kansas City. That can give them a little bit momentum coming back home and facing the Seattle Seahawks as well. Then you have a struggling 49ers team that you have to face. So before you're going into the Broncos game. So we can do something positively if we take the games one at a time. But as always, man, this is the New Orleans Saints, and we do have some strange things that usually happen to us when we are faced with some possible ways to turn around our season. Professor, I see you in the queue. How you doing?
Hey, what's up, everybody? What's going on?
All right, you're here with me and Brendan. We just ended our conversation with NOLA chick. Man, you missed a fabulous conversation that we had with her.
Oh, sorry I missed it. I was getting some other news that was far more alarming.
Okay, well, I'm sorry to hear about that.
It wasn't me. It was going to impact all of us in the nation, but I can talk to you about that privately.
Okay.
Very alarming. That's all I can tell y'all. Go out there and read tonight. When you get off the show, to all the listeners, go out there and look for the top news. Some very alarming stuff is broken loose for the United States in this presidential election.
Oh, okay. We'll talk a little bit about that as well. I know Donald Trump has had a few more people to come forward saying that he's done inappropriate stuff, if that's what you're referring to. We'll talk about that later. But let's talk about the Saints a little bit further. Professor, I was just chatting with Brendan, man. We were just saying looks like the Carolina Panthers are in a free fall at this particular time. Maybe they could be able to stop some of the bleeding with Cam returning to form if he is able to be 100% against the Saints on Sunday. Going into this game, what do you think the Saints need to do to really be effective against Cam?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. You and BB, hey, BB, my son. And the alarming news is not about Donald Trump. It's about Hillary Clinton, just to give y'all a side part.
Okay. Right.
It is, I'm not impressed with the Saints. I'm going to be very honest with y'all. That game the Saints went against San Diego, that was just the football gods worked in their favor. That is not a normal occurrence where somebody turns over the ball 3 straight times, 3 straight series. I don't know. Maybe God felt sorry for the. I don't know. That was strange. I was very unimpressed once again with how the Saints' offense looks on the road. And this is the problem with the team, though the schizophrenia play. I mean, the defense won the game. They got 3 turnovers. And everybody maligns the defense all the time. But this defense has had 2 games where they've gotten, 3 turnovers. So I think the key for the Saints is that the Saints, number one, whatever this mojo is that they're playing so horrible in the Superdome, they've got to shake this off. Because the Saints do not play well at home anymore. They are, I think, 4-12 or 4-11, something like that, at home. Mm-hmm. So I don't feel comfortable with the Saints playing at home. And the Saints' offense now even though they're ending up with 30 points, they're just too inconsistent at times. I mean, like the last couple of games, Brandon Cooks and Willie Snead are not huge factors compared to how they started the season against the Raiders. So for the Saints to beat Carolina on offense, there has to be more consistent play of, Brandon Cooks and Willie Snead on offense. Coby Fleener went back to Coby Fleener. That's why I was not all excited what he did against Atlanta, because then the next week we saw what happened. So this inconsistent play by these players is why also the team on offensively, you have to be the strong point. You have 10 players gone off your defense. The offense has to carry the team. That's the bottom line. They're going to have to score probably about 34, 35 points. Carolina is reeling. They're going to be, I would rather they had won the game against Tampa Bay and not come to New Orleans with a 3-game losing streak. So that doesn't bid well. But the Saints have a chance because Carolina Panthers do not look like the same Carolina Panthers team. So they have a chance, just as you stated in this game. No turnovers is most essential. Of course, we don't need the turnovers. We need to make sure Luggs is, continuing consistently to kick well. Seems like he's turning things around. And, hopefully we can get a turnover or two on defense. And don't look for the Saints defense to be able to hold them under 28 points. But if we can hold them to no more than 28 points and we can get our offense consistently, I think we have a chance that we can win this game. But I'm not on the bandwagon about the Saints' problems are fixed. I just can't say that. I am very, very concerned at the play of this team, on offense now, because the defense, in all fairness, I have no expectation for the defense because they have 10 key players that are some injured, some out for the year, and that's not fair. So whatever we can get from the defense is just a bonus. But I need Drew Brees in the offense to just play consistently and try to get as many points as possible, and that's our only chance of winning.
Okay. Carolina has been giving up 27 points per game. And, our defense has been giving up 32 points per game, but it still gives us some hope if our offense is trying to click as we need them to click. Their defense has been allowing 41% third down conversions. That's a lot higher than what they did last year, Brendan. I know you were talking a little bit how this defense hasn't played as well with the loss of Norman as well as the presence of Harper is concerned. But if you look on the offensive side, they haven't been running the ball as well because I know Stewart been injured, and I know Fozzie Whitaker is the one who's been taking over.
Correct. No Jonathan Stewart. So you're seeing some Fozzie Whitaker. You're seeing some Curtis Artis-Payne. You're seeing a lot of different players come in and out of this Panthers team, and I think the biggest concern, if you're looking at this Panthers team from last year, Professor said the Saints might have to put up 35 points to really win this game, and I'm looking at the offense for the Carolina Panthers, not only on paper, but actually watching some of their football games and realizing that this is not the same offense from last year.
How so?
And it's a little interesting because I think you brought up a good point. They're not running the ball as well. But last year I felt like Cam Newton was a compliment to that offense. That the offense did not have to run through Cam Newton. I know people are going to think I'm crazy for saying that. But that, more than anything, Cam didn't have to make plays. Mm-hmm. Like, Cam was not forced to be the guy in that offense.
That is
true.
I'm
not sure if it's really play calling or because the games have been more tight this year, and I'm going to actually give them a little bit of a break. They played the Broncos week 1, and then they played the Vikings week 3. You cannot tell me that they've had an easy schedule in terms of some of the best defenses in football right now. They've played some tough teams. But because the games have been so tight, they've really relied on Cam to make plays. In kind of the Cam being Cam quote right there, and Cam hasn't been Cam.
Mm-hmm.
Now, part of me is convinced that maybe Cam has really been concussed since week 1. We saw, and I'm sure you guys watched that Thursday night opener.
Mm-hmm.
But, man, Cam got hit after hit after hit after hit, and then the last one that really should have been a targeting call, where he was laying on the ground for a good 5 seconds without moving. But in this offense, they're really relying on Cam's arm and his legs. And the problem that I have with that is you look through history of running quarterbacks, especially as of late, and you see a drastic drop-off right around 28, 29, and 30 in terms of production. Well, Cam Newton's right there at that age group. And a lot of it has to do with the fact either, one, they get hurt because they're on the run and they take hits, or two, just the wear and tear on their body being at that age because of their playing style. They just kind of lose some sort of mojo, and I can see that especially in Carolina's offense. He doesn't have command of that offensive line like he did last year. He has some of the worst throwing mechanics I've ever seen out of any NFL quarterback. A lot of it relies on solely his arm talent. I'm not saying the guy's not talented. It's just the fundamentals aren't there. And now that he's forced to make plays, he hasn't really succeeded in doing that. Now I say that and watch this week or next week he makes some incredible plays by himself.
Right.
But so far this year, Cam hasn't been Cam. And Cam hasn't had the opportunity to step up in the spotlight and make that big play. He's really failed when it came to that.
How do you feel about that analysis, Professor?
I think Carolina is struggling. I think that Carolina, though they lost, you got to remember they lost 2 games to 2 undefeated teams. It's not like they lost games to bad teams. They lost by 1 point to Denver, and then Minnesota defense had a 10-point lead in that game, and then Minnesota came back and beat them by 12. So they lost to me, 2 of the top 3 teams in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
And then they lost last night without Cam. I think if Cam Newton had been playing, they would have beat Tampa Bay, because Tampa Bay only had 14 points, but they wound up winning it because Tampa Bay defense played great. So the question is, in terms of, as I always say with these players, is players have bad years. They have down times, and right now it's not working in his favor at this point, and going to what BB stated about the running game not being as effective, and Cam sometimes, which is sometimes the same Drew Brees syndrome, trying to do too much, trying to take everything on yourself, and you wind up doing, stuff that costs your team. I think that I would not write out the Carolina Panthers, not with that defense at all. And what I saw on Monday night shows me that defense is probably going to come back around. The question is, this is a must-win game for both Carolina and the Saints. After Sunday, somebody's going to be done for the year.
Right. And that's a good point, man. I was going to ask that, because really, if any one of these 2 teams lose another game so early in the season, we can just say, hey, see you next year, 2017, here we come.
Yeah, because the Atlanta Falcons, living here in Atlanta, they're legit. And it pains me to say that, but they are. Because now their defense is starting to come around, and their offense is solid. It's not just Julio. And so one of these teams, depending on what happens, hopefully Seattle beats the Falcons next on this Sunday. But if the Falcons win the game in Seattle, the Saints or the Panthers will be 4 games out. They're done. And with the way Philadelphia and Dallas are playing, as well as Green Bay, Minnesota, there's going to need to be discussion about the Saints going to no playoffs and all that. I heard some of that comments today on WWL with Bobby and them. Maybe that was just them, like, who that nation. I'm just being honest. Don't start talking about no playoffs. Please do not take these games one at a time. Now, I agree with you, Kyle. The Saints have an opportunity because right now, Carolina, Kansas City, San Francisco, and even Denver and